Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Today I want to take a quick look at the second episode of Better Call Saul Season 4. A friendly warning to all. If you aren't caught up on all of Better Call Saul and all of Breaking Bad, there will be spoilers in this video. So viewers, please be warned.
That is a healthy, strong heartbeat. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. That is a healthy business. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
Things begin with someone examining Don Hector in the hospital. Victor is present, and the two of them make an effort not to be seen. Fortunately for them, the bypassers are oblivious to their presence. Gus's doctor gives him an update, explaining that Hector is out of his coma, but that it's impossible to tell if Hector will regain his wits. The doctor mentions that being somewhere like Johns Hopkins may or may not make a difference. Kim is awakened by loud noises. It's Jimmy. He's making fresh OJ. Jimmy has a big day of job interviews planned, and Kim cautions he needn't rush. But Jimmy insists, and he informs Kim that he's not attending the meeting, and he's off and on his way. Nacho informs his old man that he no longer has to use his business as a front for Hector. His father wants no part of the dirty money, and while the father seems relieved that the situation has been remedied, he seems far more concerned about whether his son Nacho has an exit strategy. Jimmy is on a job interview for a sales position pushing copiers. Jimmy's mailroom experience has apparently made him an expert on copiers, and the interviewer is mighty impressed as he shows Jimmy the office history. A Hummel catches Jimmy's eyes. Another interviewer joins in, and Jimmy explains why he's no longer a lawyer. They seem impressed and tell Jimmy they will make their decision in a week or so. Jimmy's on his way out, but he seems determined to impress. So he marches back in, and he gives them a masterful sales pitch for the ages.
I know better than anyone that the copier, it's the beating heart of any business. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. That is a healthy business. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. That is a successful business.
These guys are absolutely mesmerized by Jimmy's salesmanship prowess. They hire him on the spot, and in a moment that reminds me an awful lot of Danny DeVito's character from the 1986 classic, Ruthless People, Jimmy is absolutely disgusted that his sales pitch convinced them to alter their course. Now Jimmy's insulting them, and he marches out of there angrily, leaving his two interviewers absolutely baffled. Mike, I make my own hours now, Trout, is at the park with his granddaughter, and she's swinging away. Mike receives a call, and he agrees to a meeting with a woman. Mike shows up at an artsy office building to meet Lydia, and she's none too happy about Mike's recent antics. But Mike knows he's in the right, and that his course of action has provided a better cover. Mike informs Lydia that he fully intends to continue working at the other 7 Madrigal terminals in the capacity of security consultant. Lydia is pissed, and she tosses a softball threat in Mike's direction, but he doesn't seem worried about this in the least. Don Hector is still in the hospital, and holy shit, it's his well-dressed Salamanca nephews. A Dr. Bruckner from Johns Hopkins busts in, and she doesn't want to step on any toes, but she's taking over Hector's case, because Gus sent them a sizable grant. Dr. Bruckner explains they need to stimulate Don Hector's brain paths. Nacho and Arturo show up, and Dr. Bruckner wants the Salamanca nephews to talk to Hector. But between the two of them, these guys almost never speak to anyone. So the Salamanca nephews order the other two to do the speaking, and they watch on inquisitively as Arturo and Nacho do their best to appease. Gus is cleaning debris outside, and he receives a call from Lydia. She's very upset over Mike's antics, but Gus doesn't seem too bothered. Gus seems more annoyed at all of Lydia's whining, and he suggests that she get Mike a badge. Tyrus gives Gus an update on Hector. There's no change, but the well-dressed duo is on the scene. Gus examines what I believe are medical notes from Bruckner, and Gus wants Victor to meet with them. Howard is explaining the will to Chuck's ex Rebecca, and Kim shows up on Jimmy's behalf. Kim knew that Jimmy was going to get screwed, and she lets this be known. Rebecca leaves, and once alone, Kim really tears into Howard, and she's mighty perturbed about Howard's recent antics with Jimmy. Kim and Jimmy share some dinner, and Kim neglects to tell him what happened with Howard. She gazes into Jimmy's eyes, and the two have a passionate encounter. Jimmy wakes up, and he's online. He finds the Hummel we saw earlier at the job interview. Holy shit, it's worth nearly $9,000. So Jimmy gives Mike a call about a job and leaves a voicemail. Nacho and Arturo are picking up some drugs, and they want 6, as Don Hector usually demands. But Tyrus and Victor say they only get 5. A standoff ensues, and Nacho escalates matters by pulling his gun. Ultimately, Gus's guys appease and give them 6. As Nacho and Arturo are leaving, Gus sneak attacks Arturo from behind, and he places a plastic bag over his head. Nacho is surrounded and he helplessly watches on, and Gus informs Nacho that he knows what he did and that Nacho now works for him. All in all, I thought it was another quality episode. Gus seems hell-bent on tormenting Hector on his own terms, which is understandable, I guess, given the history we know they already have. Gus went to extreme measures to prove his suspicions regarding Nacho, and now he plans to use Nacho as a pawn in his long and drawn-out patient plot for revenge. So any exit strategy that Nacho had, that's all gone to shit, and I don't think this bodes well for Nacho in the long haul. I suspect that Mike may have actually witnessed Arturo's murder from afar, or at the very least, that he will soon put the pieces together. But more importantly, with Mike snooping around and seeking out security shortcomings, surely it's only a matter of time before Mike understands Gus's entire operation. And I'm guessing that Mike will be pinpointing all sorts of weaknesses in their protocol, and Mike will no doubt have suggestions for improvement. We know that Mike will soon become Gus's most trusted ally, and while all of this is going on, Jimmy wants Mike to steal a $9,000 Hummel. Kim called Howard out on him trying to pass his own guilt on to Jimmy, and guilt is a major theme this season so far. Jimmy, Howard, and Kim, they are all feeling guilty about Chuck's suicide, and in a very real way, they all may have helped contribute to the circumstances that led to his ultimate demise. But it's as if Howard, Jimmy, and Kim are all playing a heated game of hot potato in terms of passing the buck on their own sense of guilt. Kim's actions in this episode, above all others that I can remember, Kim seems fully committed to Jimmy in a way we had never quite seen before. Kim and Jimmy always seemed committed to one another, and they share many a quiet romantic moment together in their own unique way, but Kim's commitment here led to an eruption of passion not typically seen in this quirky relationship. And I think this heightened sense of commitment they're having towards one another is going to ultimately end in absolute disaster, where Jimmy makes the final transformation from Jimmy into Goodman. I think it's inevitable that Kim is going to suffer some terrible fate. But even with the job interview, it's as if Jimmy is so disgusted with himself and so filled with self-loathing that he is equally disgusted that anyone would be impressed by his song and dance routine. Although in fairness to the interviewers, that was quite the performance from Jimmy. I actually wanted to buy a copier after seeing his pitch.
I know better than anyone that the copier, it's the beating heart. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
But the theme of guilt, as it applies to Kim and Jimmy, I do feel they have a greater sense of dedication towards each other, in part because of that guilt they harbor. And I think that inner guilt that each is experiencing is acting in some weird positive feedback loop with regards to their heightened dedication. And I don't think this ends well because they're both still finding ways to pass off their own guilt. As a final note, am I the only one who hopes we get to see Tuco and Skinny Pete in prison together? Either way, I'm looking forward to the next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful night.
Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. That is a successful business. And that's what we're selling.